Welcome to the Connected Growth Coaching Podcast, where we support women to rediscover who they are so they can thrive in all parts of their lives. Your hosts, Jen Heilman and Amanda Kingsley, share with you unique life coaching resources centered around the power of the mind and the ancient practice of feng shui.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Another podcast week.
Here we go.
Woo! We are
right.
on Facebook and Instagram. Just had a quick chat about what a roller coaster week it's been. So if anyone else had a crazy week last week, you are not alone. And we thought, because it's what we do, it's what we do with our clients,
Right.
is how do you roll with that?
Right.
What are the tools you use?
Right.
How do you not get wrapped up in it? How do you not react to it?
Right. Exactly. How do you pull yourself out of bed in the morning, right?
And just keep going.
Yeah. And keep moving through it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And not freak out.
Right. And knowing it's not necessarily like, how do you know if it's you or if it's some kind of external, swirl that you're in, right?
Yep.
Because we were just talking about the fact that like there is something in the air, so to speak, that if you believe in that sort of stuff, that
how can you not?
I know, right? When
everybody is like, yeah, last week was crazy.
Yeah, exactly. That there's just, so sometimes it's really good to know that you're not alone and that you're not alone in your crazy swirl. And so that there is, it gives yourself a break, just to have that information that it's maybe not all you, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you don't have that information, you literally think you're crazy.
Yeah. Or your life is falling apart.
Right, exactly. And that you're never going to be able to pull yourself out of it.
Neither things are happening.
Right.
So you can believe that if you want, but neither are true.
Right.
Like, it's just part of the process.
Right.
Like, every challenge is an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to learn something about yourself. It's an opportunity to practice getting grounded and getting yourself back in your groove.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Swirl is perfect.
Yeah,
it is.
Tara says the swirl
Tara,
is perfect
it's such
description.
a swirl.
Yes, exactly.
So I was telling Jen that in my coaching class yesterday, I decided to be the client, not the coach, just so that we all practice that way. And something happened to me at the beginning of the week. And it had to do with a doctor's visit and vaccinations. And I'm not going to get into that, but I'm all over the map. So leaving that doctor's appointment, I felt horrible. I felt like the worst parent ever. I was super wishy-washy about the decision I made. And so in this coaching call, I was like, can you help me move through those feelings of feeling like a wishy-washy parent? Feeling like not confident, not solid, not grounded in my parenting. And then I said, like, the rest of my week was crazy, but I don't think it's related. And we get on the coaching call, or they start asking me questions. I'm like, oh my gosh, like every other parenting decision I made all week, which all three of my kids had stuff this week. Like,
I know you had a heavy parenting
it was just
week.
like,
one thing after
it was a lot of parenting stuff this week, but it all came back to this same theme of like lack of confidence, lack of standing strong in my beliefs, being wishy-washy.
Wow.
And so this one decision on Monday morning at the beginning of the week, it set me up to be really like funky in all my other parenting decisions for the rest of the week. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because after them coaching me through this one parenting decision about the doctor's office and the vaccination situation, I realized if I had done that work on Monday, I could have applied it to all the other stuff that happened that week.
And life was like, here's another opportunity. Here's another opportunity.
Exactly.
And you're not paying attention. Because you're caught in this world.
So Tara is saying, we can't press C more. Shoot, because we will knock our whole situation off balance. But she said, struggling with being a mom this week, crying and wondering, am I doing enough? Okay, so here's what happened, Tara. This is perfect. I'm so glad you're on. So what we came to in me being coached through this by these other amazing coaches, like a whole room full of them, and this like master genius coach who was so awesome. What I needed to do, and I don't know if this is what you need to do, but what I needed to do was feel the feelings. Ding, ding, ding. So I left that doctor's appointment and my heart was breaking. I was really upset. I was like feeling emotional and I needed to cry and I wanted to cry, but I pulled myself together and tried to like talk myself out of it. Like, you made the best decision you could. It's all going to work out. Like, whatever happens, you'll learn from it. Like, I just which I do a lot. I'm a super duper problem solver. So I immediately was like, how can I feel better?
Right.
But what I was supposed to learn was not how to feel better. I know how to do that. I'm really good at that. What I was supposed to learn was how to feel it.
Right.
Because if I had just like had a big cry it out Monday morning and like really gone like, what are these feelings? What are they trying to tell me? What do I need to learn from them?
And just released it.
Just like Jen said, the universe probably wouldn't have sent me 17 more parenting decisions to get emotional about.
Wow.
Yeah. So what's the point here? The point is like, if you do the work, if you feel the feelings, if you write it down, like if you don't have a coach in your life, if you don't know how to self-coach yourself, you should work with us. But then besides that, get a journal, write out all your thoughts, look at them. Like, what are the themes? What's coming up here? What's going on? Can I learn from myself?
Right.
That's another really powerful question is like, what would my future self tell me? Because the wisdom is all inside you. But sometimes if you ask, like, what would my future self tell me?
Right.
You get really powerful wisdom. So when it's happening, yes, there's like stars and alignment and craziness and chaos and weird energetic stuff. But also that's an opportunity for us all to grow.
Right.
So if you process it, if you do the work, you can learn amazing things.
Right. Yeah. If you just don't, if you face it, right? If you, and when you see it coming at you, most people's inclination is to just, pull the covers up and hide for the rest of the day. But if you're like, okay, let's do this, let's move through it, right? Okay, give it to me. Then it's a huge opportunity to grow and to get back into a place of flow and ease and rather than fighting it, right? Because the resistance, whenever you have that resistance, it's like this huge warning sign about not facing what's in front of you and just not, being present with what you need to move through, right? Right. Yeah. So resistance is a great signal.
Yeah.
So
emotion.
If you start to like look at it as the emotion or the resistance as like a thing that's giving you all of the go signs to move through this, then on the other side of it is the reward, right? Yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing is that we try to hide from the emotion, we try to hide from the resistance, or we just let the resistance, happen. And the beauty is that on the other side of those things is the relief, is the results. And so it's just recognizing that. Yeah. And that's a lot of the tools that we teach is like how to recognize those moments, right? And not just totally go down the rabbit hole, but see it as an opportunity to accept this challenge of growth.
Yeah, because the energy shifts, the stars change, the planets change, all the stuff changes. But if you didn't learn the lessons you were supposed to learn last week, guess what?
They're coming around again.
They're coming around again. So like, I still have work to do about what happened last week, but I know that if I do it, the next time it's like this, the word that comes to mind is like up level. Like
I always think of it as like a swirl, right? You're like swirling up instead of swirling down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So all the challenges of this last week, like actually Melissa's on Instagram and I know, we talked about what a challenging like time we were in too. So I know she's right here with us, even though she just came on. You'll have to go back and listen, Melissa. Tara, you absolutely need to do the work. And I'll say this every single week. I think I've said it every single week on the podcast. Put your pen to paper, because I will, like, leaving that doctor's appointment, right? Like, I did all this processing in my head, process. And I got home and I was like, okay, you can keep going. But I needed to write it down. The thick of it, Melissa. And you're not alone. That's what we've been talking about. Pen to paper, your mind will be blown by what comes through, even if you think you've got it figured out in your head or in a conversation with somebody else. Like, sit down and write it out.
I'm always amazed, actually, at what comes out when I put pen to paper. It surprises me almost every single time.
And Tara, if you want to get on a quick call together, I will show you a super simple process that just is amazing.
Right.
For figuring this stuff out and just following your patterns.
That's what I was just going to say is, is there a formula? I mean, yes, it's great to do the journaling and to get everything out on the paper, but how do you go back into the journal and then pull out the themes, right? Like, how do you recognize that within the pages?
Without important. Getting into super depth about it, the first thing I would recommend that you do is just like, I'm not a sentence writer. Like, I bullet write. So I bullet write usually, or I write super short, quick sentences. Melissa says she hasn't been journaling. Yeah. And we forget. It's totally normal. Like, we know the tools that help us, but when we don't use them,
we resist them, right? Exactly.
It's crazy.
And I will say, just before you go into the whole idea or solution around that kind of stuff and journaling, this time of year is really influential in we're starting to head into this spring mode, right? Believe it or not, with the snow on the ground and all that, like, we're in February. And so it's in that creative cycle. If you haven't taken the time in the last few months, which we don't, because it's like Christmas season and, New Year's resolutions and, oh my God, it's the first of the year and I'm going to go, and it's going to be the most amazing year ever. And what we actually naturally want to be doing is hibernating and slowing down and quieting down and really being still in our minds and our bodies so that we can process what those next steps are. And so a lot of us are probably freaking out because we haven't allowed ourselves that time to get quiet and to process what it is that those next steps are. And so instead of doing that, we're freaking out because we're like, I don't know what to do next.
Yeah. And like 5-element Chinese medicine wise, like, the unbalanced emotion of this season is fear.
Fear, right?
So really, what's the reason we're all freaking out about our weeks?
Right.
Fear. And we wouldn't be freaking out, like, no matter what it is.
Right.
Melissa, our culture totally goes against these natural rhythms. But the more you can learn about them, you can, like, move around that. I find the 5-element theory and understanding the cycles of that, like, traditional Chinese medicine, incredibly empowering. There are lots of other ways to look at it, but none of this stuff would have rocked us all if we didn't have that voice inside us that was scared, right? Like, my parenting voice was scared. And that's why this week rocked me so much. If that emotion were in balance, I wouldn't have had all that fear, and I would have been able to just allow and move through and process so much easier.
Right.
Super important to just know the cycles and know, like Melissa says, like, our culture doesn't just shut down. You don't just all get to skip work and, like, journal in bed all day because it's winter.
So nice. Why don't we set that up?
Come on. But it's amazing when you just take, like, I've been doing a 40-day yoga challenge that is just, like, so helpful. Just take that, set aside 10 minutes, set aside your lunch break, set aside your drive to work, like, set an intention.
Not to journal, but
no, but let your drive to work, like, I was listening to an Oprah and Eckhart Tolle podcast this week, and they were talking about A New Earth. If you haven't read it, is like the book that changed my life. It was the turning point book for me. And they were talking about that book, and taking the practice of being in the world, particularly nature, but being in the world and not naming it. So seeing a tree and not thinking that's a beautiful tree, just thinking like, wow, that is amazing how it stands up from the ground and doesn't fall over, and like the way the light comes through the branches. So like seeing what's around you, but not naming it, not attaching stories to it. So that's something you can do when you're driving, which I think is really cool. Just like, you know, see, you could, like, I even did it yesterday with other cars. Like I started watching the other cars and I was like, it's amazing. Like someone figured out a car and then they have all these different versions and styles of it. And like
that like all express like people's personalities and like, circumstances and
So I think if it's your drive that you want to get grounded and present and contemplative, like that's a way to do it.
Hey Sadie.
So what was it? Oh, journaling.
Yeah.
So if you get the pen to paper and you do the journaling, one thing that helps for me, Jen was saying, how do you organize it all after you journal it? For me, one thing that helps is like, I'll pick my own sort of code system and like underline things that I need to go back to, circle things that I need to remember. So sort of like come up with your own like system. And then if you notice all the things you circled, just read all the things you circled or read all the things you underlined. Like maybe all the things you underlined were like fear of future, fear of never being in a relationship, fear of being stuck in this job forever. Like you may notice patterns just by like creating that sort of code system for yourself.
Yeah, that's very helpful because I know that in my own journaling practice, I don't necessarily go back, which is not super. It's great to get the pen to paper and like get it out of my system, but I need to find a way to go back and make that useful.
Yeah. So the things that I underline as things I need to go back to, I choose those things and then I go back to my self-coaching process, which is oh, my battery's gonna die. My self-coaching practice, which is to understand what's the fact, what's the circumstance, what's the thought I'm having, which is usually what I wrote in the journal. What are the actions I took, or what's the feeling I have, actions and results. So there's lots of places online that I've described that, or you can reach out to me and I'll help you through that quickly. But all the underlined things for me mean I have to go through that process. Which is crazy. You're like, this is so much work. I don't have time for this. But it's so eye-opening and so worth it. So
well, and it helps you move to the next level. Instead of continuing to journal about the same thing, you're actually moving through the process, right? And you get to the other side of that fear, you know, and or you understand the fear.
And the most important thing I learn every time I do that is self-responsibility. Like, because you can think like, oh, it's the stars or the planets or the season or my boss or my partner or my kids. But when you do that work, you're like, nope, it's me. It's me again. Me again.
I'm blocking my own way again.
I am the reason things are not going the way I want them to go.
I'm drawing in this energy again.
So if you just brain dump the journal entry and then think that the world is against you, like you're just going to keep thinking that. If you do the work to go back and look at it, me, and then you know what to do from it. Journaling in different surroundings. Oh, that's a great idea, Sadie. She's suggesting like journaling in different surroundings than you're used to shifts the thought patterns. So journaling in the car, journaling in bed, journaling at work. Like,
especially from a feng shui point of view. I love that.
That's brilliant.
Like if you have having an issue that you already know that you're having an issue with, you could go to that area of your house,
totally do that.
And see what comes up and move through it, or even just look at the space and see you know, if it relates to that the journaling theme that's going on right then.
Now that I understand a little bit more of feng shui and like directions too, I will choose what direction to face when I'm journaling based on what's best for me. So that's super cool. Those of you on Facebook who are commenting, like we can't see your full comment, so we will go back and read the rest of it after this. But yeah, so the whole point of this is go with the flow. Like, you know, it is important to look at it and investigate it and learn from it.
Right.
But also, like, just try not to freak out about your challenging weeks. Like, know this too shall pass. Focus on like what's going to help move this transition along. Just remember that everything is cycles and patterns and flow, and
it's really important to have your like non-negotiable routines set up, right? So that when you have these weeks where you feel like you're spiraling out of control, you can step into that routine that brings you some source of centering and grounding, right? Like whether it's, you know, doing body work or movement or eating right, or just even drinking more water to let it flow through you, you know, like simple things, right? That keep you in alignment, especially in the weeks, because it's super easy to do when we're in that fluid mode, you know, and we're feeling good, but they're there for the weeks that like this one, right? To set that up and so that you do keep moving through it with more fluidity.
Yeah. 4 pillars. Go through all of them. Like, where's my mind at? Where's my body at? Where's my space at? Where's my spirit at? Go through them all and identify like what needs attention, what needs attention. So these Chuff weeks are just reminders of where we need to keep working.
Right. If you spiraled this week, it just means like there's more growth on like how you can set yourself up for success, you know, in the future by making sure that those those things are in place. And sometimes it just means writing it down, right? Like what are my go-to things when I'm feeling out of control, I'm feeling out of I'm not feeling grounded, I'm not feeling centered. Like, what are my go-to things that make me feel better, right? It sounds simple, but I bet you don't do it, right? I bet we don't do it. And that's, you know, and that's part of the work, you know, is just having those reminders. All right.
Okay. I think that's a wrap. Awesome. If you post more questions, we will answer them. But thanks for sticking with us, and this too shall pass.
Yes. Much love to you guys.
Bye. As always, thanks for listening. If you learned something today that can help the people in your circle, please help us get the word out by sharing. When you leave us a rating and review on iTunes, it not only warms our hearts, but it helps people find us. We are eternally grateful for your support, and we're looking forward to connecting with you next week. Until then, you can find the show notes at www.connectedgrowthcoaching.com. You can grab your journal and then get your Shui on.